But what they find out Eaton's brother is really up to was probably way worse than being a man-eater. And I know you're thinking, what could be worse than being a man-eater, being a cannibal technically, even though they're werewolves? Welcome back once again to a new book review. The book we're going to be talking about today is a book called Hidden by Kelly Armstrong. Now apparently I found a book that barely exists online because I looked for it in the Barnes & Noble store and my Storygraph, and it was not there. I did find it on Amazon, but I actually got this copy from my local library, so we're going to talk about it today. Now, this book is a novella, and it's about a family of werewolves, or the mom and dad are werewolves. We don't know yet if the kids are because they're only 4 and too young to exhibit werewolf traits. So, with that being said, before I start talking about the characters, I do have to give a couple of warnings. There is talk of violence and violence against kids in an inappropriate manner. That caught me off guard because it did not seem to be heading that way, and it was a little hard to read. So if that is something you don't want to read, it does come more towards the end of the book and nothing happens to the kids, but just be aware of that going in if you do want to read this. But if that is something you're against vehemently, I suggest not reading it. I almost stopped reading it when I found that out, but I only had a few pages left, so I kept going. Now, with that being said, there will be spoilers for this because I cannot talk about the book without talking about the book entirely and what bugged me about it. So let's get into the characters. As I said, this is a book that centers around a werewolf family, and at first it doesn't feel very werewolfy, but we'll talk about that later. So our main characters are Clay, which is in his wolf form in the picture, and Elena. Elena is what's known as an alpha elect, which is basically second in line to be alpha when the previous alpha decides to step down. We see Elena and Clay taking their family, their son and their daughter, who are 4 years old, on vacation to a shack for Christmas. And I'm blanking on the kids' names for some reason, but with that being said, let's get into this. Elena and Clay are taking the kids to a cabin in the snowy woods for like a Christmas getaway, but they have an ulterior motive as to why they want to go to this cabin for Christmas, because they are pack enforcers and they are hunting down werewolves that are known to be man-eaters, because that is severely against the law in werewolf society, because not only is it considered cannibalistic, but it's also considered an exposure risk. Clay and Elena are sent to take care of it. Clay is what's known as the pack enforcer, and he's known throughout a bunch of werewolf packs for being absolutely ruthless in his pursuits of these man-eaters. And Elena, being the alpha elect, has to go with him to set the rules and give orders. And in this society, it is very taken aback when you see a female werewolf, because apparently she is either killed by the males or dies during the change if she's bitten. So it is very rare that a female werewolf survives to adulthood. And in the book, Clay and Elena are both in their 40s and are well into their wolflyhood. Elena having been bitten when she was 20, and I think Clay was bitten when he was younger, or was born a wolf. I'm not entirely sure. So at first, when I started reading this book, even though it was in the adult section of the library, it felt very, like, kiddish, you know what I mean? It felt like it was written for a kid. Until I kept reading, and it talked about what Elena and Clay wanted to do in bed with each other. And I was like, okay, maybe not a kid's book. But we see Clay and Elena trying to dance around their werewolf job, as in tracking down a supposed man-eater, while trying to let the kids have the vacation that they promised they would have, because their kids, for being 4, are incredibly smart, and they see right through a lot of their crap and their lies, especially their daughter, who seems very in tune with the world around her and calls Elena on her lies a lot. The reason they feel like they have to lie to the kids is werewolf changing isn't something that happens until they're farther along in life. It's basically like puberty for werewolves. So they don't know if their kids are even gonna change into werewolves, let alone if it's not time for them to know. They're too young in Elena's perspective. But that all shifts as they continue on this manhunt, and they meet a man that shows up to their cabin named Eaton, Dennis Eaton, and ironic last name with considering the fact that they're hunting down a man-eater. But they think that he might be the man-eater because he not only showed up to their cabin knowing what they were because he himself is a werewolf, but because he seems to be acting scared and afraid and lying about the fact that he knows exactly who they are, because, as I said, their reputation is known through all the wolf packs because Clay is so ruthless in his pursuits and in his job of taking out these man-eaters and these exposure risks. So when he shows up at the cabin, everybody's on edge, and they start to suspect him of being the man-eater, because there was reports of a teen, or I think they were actually 20, but they call him a kid, ends up dead and mutilated at the end of a ravine. That's what leads them to this place. So they're trying to conduct their work and their search for this man-eater while giving the kids the Christmas vacation that they promised. And I know it's a bit early for a Christmas book. I didn't realize it was a Christmas book. It didn't read like a Christmas book till partway through, and then it picked up on the Christmas theme, which it's not really relevant. The Christmas theme is kind of just an excuse for them to be at the cabin in the first place. But yeah, that's what's happening. They're trying to hunt down this man-eater and execute him for his crimes if it's proven that he won't, or he'll continue to do it. If he's only done it once and he won't do it again, they forgive him, but they give him a severe beating to say, hey, never do this again, because we're gonna hurt you if you do. You don't get 3 chances with us. So as they're doing that, stuff just isn't adding up, and it's found that Eaton has a brother by the name of Mike who sometimes visit. Eaton is telling them, oh, my brother's back out of town, he broke up with his girlfriend because he has another girlfriend in the other place he lives, and just trying to throw them off his brother's trail because they're starting to think that maybe Doug wasn't behind it or something else is going on. But what they find out Eaton's brother is really up to was probably way worse than being a man-eater. And I know you're thinking, what could be worse than being a man-eater, being a cannibal technically, even though they're werewolves? I can't even say it on YouTube, but the brother liked kids a little too much, especially young girls. Dude, like I said, I had to put the book down and step away for a bit, and I was like, I only have 1 chapter left, I might as well finish it. It's only 10 pages. But after a day of setting the book down and being like, that's not where I thought this was heading at all. But that didn't need to be brought up. You could have just had him be the one to commit the murder because he was jealous of the guy because they were after the same girl and yada yada yada. You didn't have to go there with it. He really didn't. I don't see why that was relevant to the story. But ultimately, that happening with Eaton's brother was the reason that she was finally like, okay, it's time to tell them, because they were almost attacked and taken by a werewolf. And they saw us have to fight him. And I'm pretty sure they know that their dad killed that guy with a neck snap. Honestly, I think he deserved something else before he got his neck snapped. I don't think that needed to be added in, and I don't think I would recommend this book for that reason, no matter how nicely and neatly everything wraps up, and the fact that the guy ended up with his neck snapped for his problem. It just didn't need to go there. I know it's a thing that happens in life, sadly and sickly, but I don't want to read it in books, and for that I think that I didn't really like it, even though the guy responsible did end up being dead in the snow. Just, why do we go there? Why do we do it? I liked it up until that twist. You could have kept it the murder mystery and the dancing around questions and the questionable, brother. I liked the family dynamic between Clay, Elena, and their children. I thought that they worked together really well and they were a supportive family, and it was kind of cool to see the daughter call them on their bullshit about the whole werewolf scenario. She's not dumb. The brother is kind of more scientific in a way and thus doesn't believe in magic and werewolves, but still is able to know, hear, and smell things that most people don't. He just doesn't understand why he can until the very end. But I liked this book up until the twist, and it just, after the twist, like I said, I had to put the book down for a day and then come back to it to finish it because it left a bad taste in my mouth. So like I said, if that's not something that you enjoy in stories, which if you do, get help. That's my thoughts on Hidden, which was a book I struggled to find and could not clock in my Nook app or in my story graph. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, guys.